Okay, so we are live. So let me know in the chat if I'm properly audible and you can hear my voice, or if you can see me properly. And also let me know from which platform you are watching this, because from last two sessions we went live on YouTube. Today we are live on three platforms. In fact, two platforms. We are live on YouTube and LinkedIn both. So let me know from where you are watching this. Okay, so Abhishek says, I've never even touched Spring Boot. Okay, so this will be fun because today you will see, if you don't know a particular technology, how do you, at least you will get the glimpse of it, and then of course you can learn it better later. And so yeah, we'll do that. Sorry. So what's the agenda for today? The agenda is very simple. We are working on a project which is a product. So basically we are managing the products which I have in my office. And for that, we were able to add the products in the list, and then we were able to fetch it. We were able to search it. And I have seen your assignments. I don't know. I never thought I can make such a bigger impact in just, it all started with a small thought of giving away. Then we got a thought, hey, can we just do a challenge of 10 days? And now, looking at your response on different platforms, it's amazing. Every time I open LinkedIn now, I get tons of notifications. And then in the entire day, I'm actually spending now 2 to 3 hours just checking your messages and notifications in LinkedIn. And that's quite fun. Okay, sorry for that. So it was an amazing experience looking at your messages and notifications. And one thing you can do if you want to improve your reach on LinkedIn, because it's a very great platform to create networks, create connections, getting a job. So what you can do is when you're posting something, try to make it more interesting. Maybe by putting an image of what you're doing. Example, I saw some of the posts. Let's say if we talk about Pascal triangle. So having a Pascal triangle in your LinkedIn post as a photo will give you a better reach, because when people scroll on LinkedIn, they get excited looking at the images, not just the post. And when you start with your post or the article, or not the article, but the post on LinkedIn, the first line is very important. That's how you can hook users there or your connections. Cool. And also let me know, how was your experience posting something on LinkedIn? And even, it doesn't matter who is looking at your articles, and even if it is getting the views, the important thing is, after writing the article, how was your experience? Because every time I make a video, I think, hey, I've created something, so it's my creation, okay? So doesn't matter which video, is it good or bad, doesn't matter. If I put up something on YouTube, I feel good about it. That's my creation. Every time you write something, every time you make a video, it's a creation. You become a creator, right? And I'm sure it will give you a better it will give you some confidence and dopamine, so that you will feel better. It's your first time. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's talk about what we are going to do today. It's very simple. Basically, we are going to focus on a project which we are doing, and then we'll convert that project into Spring project. Now we will introduce a framework. Let me give you my experience. When I started my programming journey, and then when I looked at different frameworks. In fact, I started my career with Java. Then I worked on Swing tool, which is the GUI tool. Then I moved towards web development, Servlet and JSPs, and I was very happy. But then someone suggested, hey, instead of working on Servlet JSP, you should work on Sturt's framework. And when first time when I heard about a framework or a tool, I was like, I'm happy, it's all working here. Why you have to learn a different framework to do the same thing? Of course, the project which you build in without using a framework is same as when you build a project using a framework. It's almost same, right? The output will be almost same. Then why to learn a new framework and do it? It's because framework will reduce your work. Of course, you have to learn something, but with less efforts, you will get more. And that's what you get from the frameworks. And today, after this session, I'm sure you're not going to learn Spring Framework, because it's very difficult to teach Spring Framework in 1 hour. But you will realize the power of Spring. A lot of magical things are happening behind the scene. and you will love it. Okay, so yeah, you're going to learn about the Postgres as well, which is a database. I wanted to go for some database like MySQL, but then you might have worked on MySQL. I wanted to give you a new flavor, and that's why we have Postgres. Yeah. Cool. So Pawan says never worked with Postgres. Excited to learn. Yeah, we'll do that today. And cool. How is your eye? Is fine now. Yeah, it's actually getting better. And again, there's quite a pain there, but yeah, I think it will take 1 or 2 more days to recover fully. Are we going to do front end part 2? No, we are not going to do front end part. We'll build the backend, and then the front end we are going to use some tool like, let's say, Postman to send request and get response. It will be your assignment to build a UI for it. Okay. Is this the first class? No, this is the third class. So you can watch the playlist. You will find the playlist on the channel, which is 10-day challenge. Okay, so on that note, let's get started. Okay, Narayana, Lakshmi. Yeah, sorry, we forgot to send you the link. Actually, not forgot, but the staff is not there in the office today. We'll try to send the link in next 1 hour if Harsh can send that. Harsh, you have to reply the mail with the PayPal link. Okay, okay, then reply to the mail. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Cool. So let's get started. And even before we start, I just want to, yeah, why to wait? We can get started, right? Cool. Okay, so let me share my screen and let's try to understand what is the problem here. So I'm sharing my screen now. Let me know if you can see that. Okay. It's quite hot here. So I'm in Bangalore. It was raining here. You might have seen the match, cricket match, the rain disturbance, but it's still hot in my office. Okay, cool. So this is what we are building here, right? So if you can see, we have our code, which is the main file in which you have basically what we have is we want to add products. What is a product here? So if you talk about a product class, it has 4 private variables. We have name, type, place, and warranty. Example, let's say a product can be anything. Example here, if you see, we have a product which is type C cable, which is a type of cable, and place is black drawer. This is the warranty. I'm not sure if we do really, okay, we don't get the warranty for cables, but it's just that. Then we got Mac Studio, which is a computer on a white table, and that's a warranty. So basically what we did is we created different products and we have added all the products in a list. And for that, we have used a product service class. And then in the product service class, we have a list of elements here, a list of products. And then we can add the product. We can get a single product by a name. We can get the product by a text. We can, okay, I have also given you some assignment on warranty and stuff. I hope you have done that. Yeah. Okay, this is what we have done, right? And we were able to add the products. We were able to fetch the products. Okay, but then what is the problem we are trying to solve here? So before that, let's understand the architecture of the project, which we already have. So we have a main file, right? So this is your main file. And then if you want to add a product, basically we have a product service class, which is doing all the logical part. So from the main, basically we are saying add a product, right? But then how exactly product will be added? The logic is maintained here. So logic is there inside the product service. Now how to get the product? So again, we are just calling it, right? From the main, we are just calling it. And the logic is mentioned in the product service. And then how do you represent a single product? We don't want to use variables, and that's why we are basically using a class called product. Now this product class represents an entity for you, right? Now this will have a name and sorry. Now this will have a name and name, place, type, and warranty. And basically in the product service, what you have is, now since we have multiple products, we have to store it somewhere. And where we are storing them is in the list. So basically you have a list, and inside this list, you are storing all the products. The problem with this is it's a very common problem where every time you run this application, so whatever application you have here, every time you run this, basically you are creating a new list, and then you are initializing the list with these values, and then you are fetching value, right? I don't want to do this. I don't want to, every time I run the application, it should add the list like this. Ultimately, we are working with a code, right? Example, if you have a new product, basically we have to change the code here. We don't want to do that. So where do you store data? Because at the moment I close this application, I will lose all the data, right? And to store this data, we have to store it somewhere. And that's why in this particular project, what we're going to do is we will be using a database here. Okay, now this is your database, and currently we are using PostgreSQL, which is one of the most amazing open source database. Okay, I think you cannot see that. That's weird. Yeah, basically we are continuing with the extra days code, so we will be expanding it. Yeah, and this is what I was talking about. Venkatesh has mentioned an important thing here, which is code looks difficult yesterday, but after doing it by myself, it seems easy now. That's important. You have to try the code by yourself, because when I type, I have a clear picture in my mind because I'm typing it. I know how the flow going. But when you watch a video or when you watch it live, sometimes you're not clear what is happening, and that's why we have to write the code by yourself. Okay, I just need to move this to, how do I move? Yeah, this looks good. So basically what we're doing is we are creating a database now, and we want to store this data in the database. So basically whatever list you had here, this list, instead of storing it in a list, we have to store that in the database directly. Now we can directly write the code. So question arises, how do you write a code for database? We have to use something called JDBC. Now JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity, right? So we need to use JDBC here. Now the problem is, if you want to use JDBC, we have to write some steps to work with JDBC, and the question is where you will write the steps. And that's where we have to use something called a layer. So don't write your JDBC code inside service. Service is meant for logic, processing logic. If you want to work with database, what you can do is you can create another class here called product DB. Now this class is responsible to communicate with the database. Yeah. Cool. So that's what we are going to implement here. I just need to check if everything is proper in my machine. Just a second, everyone. I'm not able to open this. Something is weird here. Okay, cool. Yeah, basically we have to get a different class, right? So what I'm going to do is, in this code, basically, we are going to write database connectivity, database connections. And to achieve that, we have to make some changes. Now, what kind of changes we want here? The changes are very simple. If you want to connect to a database, of course, first of all, we need a database here, right? Now, if you want to work with database, what you can do is, first of all, we start with the JDBC part. If you go back to, okay, so in my machine, I have installed something called a Postgres. Yeah. Okay. So you have to install Postgres first. Now, how do you install Postgres? Very simple. Go to browser and search for Postgres. So go to browser and search for Postgres. This is where you can download it. Yeah, and Postgres and MySQL is almost similar. The difference is Postgres being open source now, and MySQL is a part of Oracle, It's also open source. I guess there's one version of MySQL which is open source. I'm not sure, but if you totally want to use the open source version, I would prefer to go for Postgres. Yeah, and you can see you will also get the source code of it. Not needed, but anyway. So you can download the Postgres in your machine, and once you install it, it's very simple to install it. You just have to set the password. You will get something called pgadmin. So once you install Postgres, you will get pgadmin, which is Postgres admin. And you can use MySQL if you want in your assignment. So you have to set the password. I have set the password, which is 0000, so 4 times 0, and click on OK. Now this is how your Postgres database will look like, or Postgres admin will look like. And in this, you will have an option of server. So if you expand server, okay, just asking me for the password, enter. Yeah, so this is how your Postgres will look like. I know this looks some fancy tool. You can see all the dashboard, the benchmarks, what is happening with your system. And if you can see, we have databases here. By default, you will get this Postgres database. Test is what I have created, but you can use Postgres. And if you want to create a database, which we are going to use, what we can do is we can right click here and we can say create database. And what database name I want to have here is Telesco. So that's my database name. If you want to see the SQL query for this, you can click on SQL, and that's the query. So create database Telesco. We don't need all these things, but then the owner is Postgres, doesn't matter. Click on save, and you can see you got your database here. Yeah. So this is your Postgres, the database which you created here. And in this, if you look at schemas, now this is where your table, you will be having your tables. So I'm assuming that you know the concept of SQL, database, tables. Okay. Otherwise, we have to take next 6 months to talk about SQL. It's a huge topic. But yeah, we got the database which is Telesco, and here you can see we have tables, and by default it is empty. Okay. I want to create one table here. So what you can do is you can right click here and you can click on create table. And what table I want? So my table should be a product table. Okay. So we want a product table, and in this we want to. Yeah. Okay, just a second. Yeah. Okay, so we want a product table, and how many columns you want? So basically you can just click on the column here and you can create the columns. So the first column which I want is ID. So I know we don't have the ID in our, remember when we started talking about our project of product management, I've mentioned that your product is actually an entity, right? So every entity will have one table. So let's say in your project you have 5 entities. Every entity will have a table, right? Yeah, okay. So in the table, basically, you need to have your primary key. So every table will have a primary key. So in this case, I'm creating a primary key here. See, name cannot be a primary key because I can have 2 laptops with the same name. Yeah, possible, right? Okay, so I have ID. What is a type of it? I want the type to be integer. Do we have integer here? Yeah, we want integer of type. Length scale doesn't matter. This should be a primary key. I also want this to be to have auto-generated values. I don't want to generate value by myself. So every time I enter a new product, it should give it a new ID, 1, 2, 3. And the way you can do that is, I'm using Postgres after a long time. So there should be an option of identity generated, no, identity always increment by 1, start by 1, and that's it. I think it should work. Let's see the SQL query for this. Generated as always as entity, identity, okay. Increment 1, start 1, cool. If I click on save, done. So you can see we got table here, but I want to check if this table works. What I can do is I can just go to the query tool where I can write the SQL queries. So this is a place where you can write a SQL query. I know I'm going a bit fast, but you have to rewatch this session. This is not about teaching you SQL. This is more about how do we build a project, right? So what I will do is I will first of all say select star from product. Let's see if you have any product there. It's empty. Relation product does not exist. Is it? I've created this table. Is it case sensitive? From when? No. Something is not working. So I'll say use Telesco. Select star from product is okay. Something is not working. What's wrong? I've clicked on this. I'm using this database. Let me just refresh it once and run. Okay. Something is weird. How about this? If I say this belongs to Telesco, this is not working. Columns is there. Okay, we got only one column. Oh, I forgot to enter all the different columns here. You know what I will do? I will just drop this and let's create this table by query. So I will say create table product. The product should have an ID. And if you want to have a SQL query, you can also mention serial. Okay, you have to mention this of type integer. Serial if you want the auto-generated, and it should be a primary key. And as DBMS changes, this also changes. Yeah. No, table is not Telesco. Database is Telesco. And yeah, I'm in the right thing. Doesn't matter. And then we can say name is text. I think Postgres supports text, not string or varchar. So we got name. Then we got type, which is also a text. Then we got place, which is also a text. And then we got what? We have one more thing, which is warranty. Yeah. So warranty, which is of type integer. Let's run this and let's see what happens. Okay. Did I mention the wrong query? Don't have to mention integer, is it? So it says near integer. Okay. Yeah, it worked. Okay, so we should not mention integer if you are mentioning serial, because it is serial is also a type. Okay, cool. We have created this table. I will just say now let's see if this works. Select star from product. I want this to be empty. Okay. Yeah, you can see it is empty now. So we got a table. And this is auto increment now. This will increment automatically. I will not even insert this. But then I want to do that from the Java code now. So if you can see, I'm adding a product here. But if you see, we are adding all the products. And then in the service, we are adding in the list. But what we are going to do is, we will not be doing the changes in this particular file. The problem is, when you are working with a database connections, we need to create a different we have to add some libraries. We need to connect with JDBC, right? For JDBC, we have to add a jar file. Okay, and then you can actually do that in the external files. You can just go back to external files and you can add, or external libraries, you can add a jar file. But to better manage the product, we can use something called Maven. Now, Maven is a build tool which also helps you to handle these jar files. So what I can do is, I can right click here. I hope there should be an option of converting to Maven. Okay, do we have it here? Refactor. No, I can't see any option. Let me know in the chat if you know where to, because I have used this on Eclipse. Because in Eclipse you get this option here. No problem. What we can do is we can simply create a new project, and let's say new project. Okay, and then instead of selecting a normal project, what we're going to do is we're going to select a Maven project, and we'll name this as product demo DB, because we are working with DB database now. And then everything is as usual. So, okay, there's a question, Maven versus Gradle, which is best or which is better. Both are good. It's just that I'm more comfortable with Maven because it is easier to teach. In Gradle, there are a lot of new things, and then indentation is one thing. So for projects, Gradle is good. For teaching, Maven is good. Yeah, and for beginners, Maven is good. Okay, click on create and it will create a Maven project. I will say new window because I want both these windows. Okay, and then in this, I'm going to simply copy the files. So if I go back here, I want all these files, so I can just simply copy and paste, overwrite all. And I'm also going to change, packages org.example, let's stick to that. Now what you get in the Maven project is this. If you expand this, or if you go to pom.xml, so whatever dependencies you need, you just need to mention those dependencies here. So what you can do is you can put a thing called dependencies, and whatever dependency you want, you can just add it here. Now what dependency we want? We want a dependency for this, what is the connector, right? Now, how do you get the connector? How do you get the dependency? Do we have to by heart it? Not exactly. So what you can do is go back to your browser. There is a website called MVN repository. And in this, just a second. Okay. Yeah, so in this, you just have to search for PostgreSQL JDBC. And if you can see, we have it here. This is the library which we have to use. And make sure that you get the recent ones, okay? Don't go for the versions which are way old. And which one to choose here? So I always go for second last version because the latest version will always have some issues, okay? And it also tells you which of the library has vulnerabilities. And you can see there are certain vulnerabilities here. This one is safe, but we'll go for this one, 42.5.4. Select this one and copy this. Go back to your project and just paste. So what you got there is dependency, okay? And every time you make the changes, depending upon different IDs, you will get different options. Yeah. Yeah, this session is a bit difficult, right? Because we are learning different tools here. This session is all about learning different tools. So rewatch this session and it will make much more sense. And you will love it after you're doing it by yourself. Okay. Praveen says in the configuration, there's an option of converting it. Is it? Let's try. If we can do that. If I'm going back to my old project and he says there is an option in configure. Where do I get the configuration? Configure. File. Hey, where do we have that option of configure? Tool. Yeah, can't find it. But where? Add framework support where? Where's the option? Yeah, okay, here. Add framework support, Maven. Okay, we got the option. Cool. Hey, done. Oh, it was so fast. We don't even need to have a create a project. So what you do is you can just click on this, right click on the project. Thank you so much, Praveen. Add framework support and select Maven here. And you will get this option. Oh, that was cool. So now let's go back here, specify the dependencies and paste it here. Okay. So good thing is you don't have to create a new project. Thank you. And now the moment you add this, what you have to do is you have to refresh your Maven. So if you can see, there's an option of Maven changes. Click on this and it will download the jar files for you. If you want to see where it is, click on the external libraries and you will find a jar file for Postgres. Cool. So this is what we wanted. Now, once you have added that support, it's very simple now. What you do is, instead of adding to a list, we are not going to do that now. So what I will do is I will just comment this section and everywhere we have to make the changes. Okay, let's not comment because our code is dependent on it. We are not going to use it. So let's say if I want to add a product. So what do you do is, instead of adding to a list, because we are not going to do that. We are not going to add to a list. We will add this to our database. Now, how do you connect to a database? It's very simple. What you do is you simply say, I want a database connection. So I can say db dot add a product, or maybe I can say save, db dot save and pass p. Just by writing this line, the data should be stored in the database. Right? Will this work? Of course not, right? It's not Rajnikant to know everything. We are not sure which database you are using, what is your database name, I mean, which DBMS we are using, what is your database name, what is the password to connect with it. So this will not work. So what we want is, we want an extra layer. Remember in the iPad, when I was talking about it, we have mentioned about the extra layer. This is the layer which we want to create. So how do we create that layer? It's very simple. You can just right click on your project here and create a new class and name this class as product DB. Okay, we'll do it later. And in this class, basically you have to create a save method. So I want the object of product DB. So I will say product DB, and I will say this is DB equal to new product DB. Once I get this object, I can simply say db.save. But unfortunately, we don't have a database here. So what I can do is, we don't have a save method. So I will click here and say create method save, and done. We got this method here. And this method is responsible to store data in the database. The entire service class should not have any idea about database. It will simply say, save it. I don't care how you do it. It is your job, product DB, to connect to database and save it. Now, to connect with database, you have to learn how do you use JDBC, okay? Harsh, can you just also add the JDBC video in the description? So you will find in the description, you will find some videos. One is for Spring Framework, one is for Lombok, which we're going to use, and also for JDBC. Hey, I've updated the Git link. If you can see the previous video, the Git is there. Git link is there. Okay, cool. Come on, if you just started watching this, hit that like button. I know this is Sunday, you're enjoying out, and that's why we have less people in the chat today, or less people watching this. Okay, so in this, we have to connect to database, right? And I will not be teaching you database connections, JDBC connections here. I'm just going to write it. So basically for JDBC connections, you need something called a connection object. So you have to say connection, which is coming from java.sql. Now this is coming because you have added that jar file of Postgres. If you don't add this jar file, you will not get this. So we'll say connection con equal to, okay, we'll just say equal to null by default. And let's create this object in the constructor. So I will say public product DB constructor. And in the constructor of this, I will simply create the object. And the way you do that is by using a driver manager dot get connection. And in this, you have to mention the URL. Okay. Now it will take 3 parameters from you, not one, it will take 3 parameters. The first parameter which you have to mention is about the URL of the database. The second one is a username, and I know the username, so this is Postgres. That's the username. The password for my machine, Postgres, is 000. When you install, make sure that you change it. And then we have a URL here. Now this is something you have to remember or by heart, that's your choice, but When you work from a long time, you remember that. So you say JDBC colon Postgres SQL colon slash, not this slash localhost, because it is installed on your machine, colon 5432, which is the port number for Postgres. Okay, for different database, we have different port number. I think for MySQL, I forgot the port number for MySQL. That's weird. So this is the port number for Postgres. If anyone knows the port number for MySQL, put that in the chat so that others will know. And also the port number for Oracle. I guess Oracle is 1862 if I'm not wrong. Doesn't matter, you can just get it from the internet. Port numbers are something you don't have to buy hard. Anyway, so you got this detail, right? We got the URL, we got the username and password. And it might throw an exception. So you might get an exception. What you can do is you can click on more actions and you can say surround with try catch, because it might throw an exception. So once you got this database connection created, let's save the product. Now to save it, what you need to do is you have to write a SQL query, right? So we need a SQL query here. So I can say query. Now what will be my query? My query is very simple. I want to say insert into product with the fields, because I don't want to mention the ID. ID should be auto-generated. So I want to insert name. I want to insert type of the product. I want to insert the place. I want to insert the warranty. Yeah, right. MySQL is 3306. How can I forget my 3306? And Oracle is 1521. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Okay, cool. And then values, we have to enter the values as well. Now question arises from where you will get the values. Tell me, if I want to insert all this data, from where you will get the values? So basically the values you will get is from the product. This is where you have all the values, right? Because one product will have details about your product. It will have a name, type, place, and warranty. So what you can do is you can add the values here. Okay, but since we are going to use prepared statement in JDBC, now if you want to know more about JDBC, you will find the link in description and you can watch the video later about JDBC. But here I will say question mark, question mark, question mark, 4 question marks for 4 different values. And we can replace that later. But how do you execute the query? So we have to create something called a prepared statement. st equal to con.prepare statement. And we just have to pass the query here. So whatever query you have created, just pass it here. Now this might also throw an exception. So what I can do is I can say surround with try catch. Yeah. So we are executing a query. Not, we are just creating a query now. Let's execute it. So how do we execute it? So we can simply say st.execute. Now what it will do is it will execute the query. So let me just go with the flow again. In the main, what we are doing is we are saying add product. Now this product is actually going to product service. Inside product service, we have this add product method, which is taking a product. It is asking database to save it. So the same object goes to product DB, and then you are accepting it here. And we are using SQL query to send it to the database, right? But the problem is, we can't simply say execute because we have not mentioned the values yet. It is still question mark. We have to change these values. Now, how do we change it? Quite simple. Just before the execution, you can say st dot. Each question mark is one parameter, right? So you can say set string, because the first one is string. So the first question mark, since we have 4 question marks, we have to replace it. The first question mark will be replaced by the name. So p.getName. The second question mark will be replaced by p.getType. No, type. The third question mark, set string again. The third question mark will be replaced by p.getPlace. And last question mark, which is set integer, because last one is an integer here. So it's a set int. Question number 4, the question mark 4, this is p.getWarranty. Okay, so we are able to set all the values and we are saying execute, our job is done. The question is, will this work? I'm not sure, let's try. So what we can do is, we can simply comment all other things, only focus on adding a product. What do you think, will it work or did I complete all the steps? I'm not sure. Sometimes you get to know things when it gives you errors, right? So let's go back here. Say run. Oh, we got an error. It says Postgres phrase, unable to pass the phrase. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Let me just check. Oh, someone also mentioned that you can wrap it. Where do you have the option of wrapping it in the... Oh yeah, okay, this looks good. So we can wrap the entire output. Cool. So we forgot to do one more thing. We forgot to mention the database name. So the database name is Telesco here. Okay. Okay, we have not started with the data JPA yet. I wanted to show you the part of data JPA, right? And that's what I'm going step by step here. Let's try to run this once more time. And oh, something happened. You can see there's no error. It says process finished with exit. Okay, let's try. Let's see. How do you verify this? Let's open our PG admin and let's run this particular query. Oh, can you see that? We got ID, which is auto-generated, and we got all this data here in the database. This looks cool. Okay, now once we have entered the data, let me comment the entire section because now we have data in the database. So let's not insert every time. Now this time I want to fetch all the products. This is something I want to execute. Okay, so get all the products. Yeah. So here, when you say get all products, let's not get it from the list. Question arises from where you will get it. Again, simple. db dot, you can say get all. This is the method I want. So in the database, I want to say get all. But unfortunately, we don't have a method. So what you can do is you can say create method get all. So we got the method and this should return a list. So let me create a list here. So I will say list of products and we'll say products equals to new. Okay, so people who are finding it difficult, my suggestion would be first watch the JDBC video and then also watch the Maven video. Hush, also add the Maven video. So JDBC video and Maven video, then watch the entire session. You will love it. You will see the power of frameworks and how everything works. Okay, so basically what we're doing is, instead of getting data from a list, last time we were getting data from the list, right? This time we want to fetch data from the database. So here we are saying we are getting a list and let's fill this list from the values which is coming from database. Okay, how do we do that? So just say return product so that you will get rid of errors. This time it will return empty. Let me try that. Let me see if I get the empty here. Let's run this. And you can see we are not getting any data because it's empty. The list is empty. So how do we fill this? It's very simple. Again, use the same thing. Let's copy this because we are going to query the database. Paste. What are the changes? The first change you're going to make is the query. We're not going to insert this time. We are going to select. So we'll say select star. Okay, we are not getting star. We are going to mention the column name because we don't want ID there. So we'll say name type, place, and warranty. From table name is product. And we don't have to apply where clauses because we want all the data. Okay. How do I ignore this warning? Okay, ignore that. So basically we are fetching everything from database, right? And let's execute the query. Now, since we don't have any question mark here, you can skip the entire section from here and simply say execute. The difference is execute will not return the data. We want data, right? So execute query is something you can use to get the data. And what it returns is the result set. So it will return you a result set. And what you can do is you can get data from this result set and store it in a list. But the problem is it will give you data in the result set format. You have to convert that. Yeah. Okay, everyone there with me? Can you see what I'm doing here? It's all confusing. Okay, cool. So basically we want to fetch data from result set and set it in the products here because that's what we are returning here, right? So how do you add? So basically we can run a loop because if you say rs dot, there is no method using which you can get all the data and save it in a list. We have to do it manually one by one. There is no option. Anyway, so what I will do is I will use a loop here and fetch data one by one. So you can say fetch data till the end. And every time you fetch data, you can simply, okay, what we have to do is we have to create a product object because, okay, I know we don't have time to explain this now, but just go with the flow, everyone. So what we are trying to do is we want to create a list of products, right? So we will be having multiple products. So every time you run this loop, create a product object, and it is highly recommended. Make sure that you watch the video of JDBC and Maven. Trust me, this will be very, very easy. Okay. Okay, cool. So let's get the product object and save each value in the product values. Okay. So how do we update the value? So we have to say p.setName, and this is coming from rs.getString from the first column. So since we are getting multiple columns, right? This is the first column, second column, third column, fourth column. Then we can say p.set type. This is coming from second column, so I will say getString, column 2. p.set place. You know, this is like a beautiful poem from a language which you don't understand, right? It sounds beautiful, but you're not sure what is happening. 3, then p.set warranty, and rs.getString or get integer. This time it is integer, and we are saying 4. Okay, so we were able to set the value for the product. Now, once you get all the values, just add the product in the product. So we'll say products.add p. Now, let's say you have 15 values, right? So in the database, now this while loop will run 15 times, and every time you will get the new product object, you are setting the values which is coming from database and adding to a list. The same list goes back to the product service. The same list goes back to the main, and in the main, you are printing all the values. Let's see if this works. Run, and voila. Can you see that? This time you're getting data from the database. Is this making sense? At least you are getting the gist of it, right? How things works out. Yeah. Okay, so let me know in the chat, are you okay for a session which will go for next 45 minutes more? Harsh is sitting there looking at my face. He wants to go home. Is it okay if I stretch it with 45 minutes more because I want to complete the entire project? Yeah. Okay. So since we have 45 minutes more, what we'll do is we'll take a break now for 3 minutes and then we'll continue. Cool? Because we also have an assignment after that. Oh, thank you so much. Let's take a small break of 3 minutes. Okay, so welcome back from the break. And I don't know how many people are still here. Comment, put a chat, say hi, I'm still here. Okay, let's continue with the code. I know people are less today. So, people who are watching now, they have a good probability of winning the MacBook, because it's a marathon. Okay, cool. Let's get back to the code. So yeah, so basically we were able to fetch all the data, right? The same thing can be done for other things as well, for the other methods which we have here. So you can see we have it for get all. We can also do it for the get product name for a particular name. We just have to we have to change the query here, right? No. Okay. So poor Harsh poor Harsh need to stay for more. No, Harsh just went. So in the break he just went home because he was also not feeling well. So the thing is in my family, everyone is getting ill in a cycle. Okay, because of the weather maybe, or I'm not sure what. So now Harsh is also not well. So need to take care for the next 1 week. Okay, cool. So let's get back here. And what we have to do is, so yeah, you can also do it for the get a product with a name, but that is your assignment. Okay, so write a SQL query and convert this into a database. I mean, convert this so that you will get data from database. Make sense? Now I want to show you a real magic. Okay. And that magic is, how do we change this project into a Spring Boot and a Data JPA? We'll compare this code from the code which we'll write in this Spring Boot. Okay. Now I don't want to teach you entire Spring Boot now. So yeah, I don't want to teach you entire Spring Boot, but I want to show you the power of Spring Boot and what it can do for you. Okay. So how do you work with a Spring Boot project? The first thing is, if you want to create a project of Spring Boot, you can go to IntelliJ and you can say File, New. When you create a project, you have to make sure that you select Spring Boot, but there should be an option in your IDE. I think my particular IDE is the ultimate version. Yeah, so I have an ultimate version here. You will not get this options, the Spring Initializer option, I guess, in the community version. So if you want to get this project, even if you have a community version, that's completely fine. What you need to do is, you need to go to the website and where the other file went. Yeah. So you have to go to the website called start.spring.io. Okay. And here, you have to select the project type first, which is Maven in this case. The language it supports is Java, Kotlin, Groovy. We'll select Java here. Version, whichever is default, you can go for 3.1. And then you have to mention your group ID. So that represents your company ID, basically, a unique one. So this is com.telesco. And then the project name. So project name is product demo, we'll say product Spring. You can change this as well. Make the packaging as jar and the version. So make sure that whatever version you have in your machine, select that. And then from here, you have to add dependencies. Now, what are the things we need? So basically, the first thing you need here is what you need. You need a Postgres driver. So PostgreSQL driver, added it. Next, you need something called a Data JPA, because I wanted to show you the power of it. Yeah, this is called a Spring Initializer. So add these two dependencies, Postgres and Spring Data JPA, and click on generate. That's it, your job will be done. You just have to unzip this. Okay, so click here, unzip it. I will just hide this so that I don't share everything. It's in downloads. Okay, nothing is risky there. Okay, cool. So you can see I have this file here. What I will do now is I will go back to my IntelliJ. I guess I already have the IntelliJ DB here. Let's use this window. I will open this project, which I've downloaded, which is there in downloads. It's there in product Spring. And yeah, open this project, this window. Okay, cool. So you can see we got our Spring project here. And trust me, once you see Spring project, you will say, this is easy, very, very easy. Okay. Okay. So if you go back to your pom.xml, this is what you have. You can see we got two dependencies here. In fact, we have three dependencies. You got Data JPA, if you can see, you got Postgres, and you got the testing part, testing framework. Okay, cool. Now in SRC, if you go to main, you have Java, and this is your basically main application. Whatever code we have in main, you will be writing that here. Expand this. I will explain this in some time. Okay, this part. Yeah. Anything difficult to this point, or it looks easy? Any problem till this point? No, we are not going to add Spring MVC and Spring Web because this is not a web project. This is still a console project. Okay. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to copy the code which we had here. So you go back to main and let's not add everything because we already have that in database. Let's execute this part, only this part. We are fetching all the products. How do I fetch all the products? Just paste it here. The question is, will this work? Of course not, because we don't have a service class yet. So how do we get the service class? It's very simple. You can just copy this service class and paste it here. So you can see we got a service class, which is here. We also need a product class. Paste here. Okay, so we got the product, we got the service. Service says it is searching for product DB. Okay, we'll get that. And you know what I will do? I will remove product DB. And in get products, let's say, okay, let's solve this problem later. Let's solve these errors later. And just to keep it more simple, I will remove this part just to make it easy. And yeah, cool. Okay, so the problem is we don't have a product service class here object, or we don't have the object of product service. So let's go back here and say product service. Let's create the object for it as service equal to new product service. Okay, and then in this we have the object of product. We don't need a list as it at this point, so we can remove the list as well. And okay, now one thing to remember about Spring Framework. Now Spring Framework provides you one of the most important feature in programming, which is the the dependency injection. Now what is dependency injection? If you go back to the main method, you can see we are creating an object of product service. When you say new keyword and when you mention the constructor, basically you as a programmer, you are creating an object by yourself. Is it a bad thing? Yes, it's because when you create the object, it is your responsibility to destroy it. Basically, you have to manage the life cycle of an object. Spring Framework says, you don't have to create the object. I will do it for you. Trust me. Spring Framework says, you don't have to create the object. I will do it for you. Let me show you what I'm saying. What I will do is, I will just comment all the methods here. Comment. And let's create a very simple method. So I will say public void show. And in this show, basically I'm saying in show. Okay. And we all know that if you want to call this show, you need to first create the object. Let me comment this section as well. Yeah. So first you need to create object of product service, then only you can call it, right? Example, I can just go back here and I can say service dot show. This will work. Let me try run. And you can see, oh, it is giving you errors because we have added this dependency of database. Okay. Let me comment this Postgres and Data JPA for some time. Only Data JPA commenting should work. When I comment it, and if I go back to my application and, okay, what did I just comment it? Oh yeah, if I comment that, then we have to get this Spring Boot dependency. Okay, you know what I will do? Just trust me. Just trust me, because I have to make a lot of changes if I want to achieve that, because I have to get the Spring Boot dependency then if I comment it. Let me just reload the Maven dependencies. Okay, so the thing is, you have to say service.show, then it will work, right? But then Spring Boot says you don't have to create the object. You can just remove this and it will still work. How? Step one, you have to tell Spring Framework to create the object for you. Spring Framework will give you the object. And for that, just on top of your class, say add component. So what you're doing is you are telling your Spring framework to create the object. So Spring will handle it for you. You don't have to handle it. Yeah. Okay. Ignore the XML file at this point if you're finding it confusing, and make sure that you do it by yourself, then it will make much more sense. Okay, cool. And then go back to your, see, the problem is we are doing so many things at the same time in less amount of time. It does create some confusion. Okay, so what I will do here is I will just try to, okay, so how do I get this object from Spring? Yes, I'm reading this chat. Okay, and someone mentioned Kohli got 100, even I got distracted. I wanted to watch the match today, but no problem. So what you do is, when you talk about the first line, Spring provides you something called Spring container. So every time you run this line, I mean, the moment you run this line, it will create a container for you. Imagine a container as a box where the objects are already created. So you don't have to create the object, objects are created. And if you want to learn everything in detail, you will find the link in description about this Spring video. Just watch the video, you will get the complete idea. Now this basically gives you an application context object. So let's use it. So this run returns you the object of application context. Let's just use it. And using that context, now since the object is created, right? So the object of product service is already created by Spring Framework and it is available for to use. How do you get the object? It's very simple. You simply say context dot, and you say Spring Framework, give me the object. Okay, so Spring Framework get bean and mention which class object you want. I want the object of product service, service.class. So you mention which class object you want. And Spring will give you the object. Yeah, this is called dependency injection. And now this should work. But the problem is I can't run it because there are certain properties you have to mention. So I will not run it now. So getBean will give you the object, but this will work, trust me. Okay. So what we are saying is we want to get the data, right? So from this service, let me just uncomment this part. Yeah. So from this service, we are saying get all products, which is here. Okay, we are not going to go do add product, right, which is already there. Data is already there. Let's use get all products. Okay, so you can see we are saying get all products, and this will work only when your application is connected to a database, and that too with the help of queries. Okay, and you can see we don't have any file here which has a database connection. But let me create a file here because we want it DB, right? So what I will do is I will just right click here and say create a class, and we'll name this as product. Maybe you can say DB or whatever name you use, doesn't matter. And in this class, you have to mention all the queries. But then if you really want to use queries here, then why you are using Data JPA and all these features? Let me show you something. Let's not even create a class. Let's create the interface. Okay. And the only thing you will do here is you will extend something called JPA repository. Now, JPA repository is an interface which will help you with the concept of ORM. Now, on the channel, there's a video on ORM. Please watch it. Harsh is not here, so he can't add that in description. But you can search on what is ORM and watch the video. You will get much more idea. But ultimately, when you see the output for this, you will get the gist of it. Now, repository says, tell me which class you're working with. So I'm working with product. And what is the type of your primary key? The primary key is integer. Okay. And okay, doesn't matter. So the primary key is actually integer here. Okay, something wrong here again. Yeah, that's right. Object relational mapping. That's right. Okay, so we simply create this particular interface here and no configuration. Okay, we have not done any code here, but see the magic. And okay, now this is the exciting point. People who are still watching, just see the magic. If I go back to product service and let's create the reference of product DB. So I'll say product DB, just a reference, and DB dot, can you see that? We got methods. Just say find all, no need for any SQL query. No need to do everything which we have done here. If I show you the code, what we have done in the earlier project is this. If you want to get all, you have to write this number of lines. With this, no line. This is what Data JPA is doing for you. It's not like behind the scene there is no SQL query, because the only way you can interact with your database is with the help of SQL, but this is happening automatically. Is it making sense? Okay, but the thing is, we got the method, but unfortunately, your application has no idea about the configuration. Nothing. Because nowhere we have mentioned which DBMS you're working with. Is it Postgres? Is it MySQL? Is it Oracle? We have not even mentioned database name. We have not even mentioned username, password. We have to configure those things somewhere. Now, where is that somewhere? If you can see, there's a resource folder here. In the application.properties, this is where you mention all the properties. Now, what's the property I'm talking about? I'm talking about the URL. The URL is for the Spring data source.url. And the URL is the same which we have written before, which is JDBC : Postgres. Oh, let me just copy it because this is the URL which we want. Copy and paste it here. Next thing you have to mention is the username. So Spring data source username, which is Postgres, single S. And we also need a password. So Spring data source password, which is 0000. And that's it. Once you mention this, let's see if this works. Run. Oh, we got errors. I thought it will work. Okay, it says there are certain things which are missing. What is that missing thing? It says error creating a bin with product DB. Oh, okay. The thing is, in the product service, we are creating a reference for product DB, right? Where is the object? Where is the object? That's the problem. So the thing is, as we mentioned for product service, remember we have mentioned component here. In the same way, in the product DB as well, on top of it, we have to say this is a repository, because we are working with repository here. And in product service, if I want, see the thing is, just by mentioning this, Spring will not know that you want this object. You have to say, hey Spring, I want an object of product DB. And for that, you have to say AutoWire, search it and give me the object. Okay, if you want to know more about AutoWire, watch the video which is there in the description about Spring Framework. Okay, if you want to know how I got this full thing when I just mentioned user, just type user, it will give you prompt. And it happens with some of the IDEs. Okay, and it should work now. Let's rerun the code. Okay, now we have different error, and I love errors. See, the thing is, it says, and sometimes you learn by errors, right? It says everything is good. Now I got the object, but the problem is this product class is not managed. It is not. It's still not a bean. And also, there's one more thing which you have to remember. When you talk about the product, it is not just a simple class, right? This is trying to map. So basically, your table and your class is getting mapped. And to achieve that, you have to say add entity here. Next, you also need to specify the primary key. Which is the primary key here? Which is private int ID. That's your primary key. And to mention that it's a primary key, you have to say at ID. Is it ID? Yeah. So at ID. And then we have to also mention that this value is actually auto-generated. Okay, so how do you get this auto-generated? So ignore this part because this is just something which you can see later. You have to say auto-generated, so generated value equal to, you have to set a strategy if I'm not wrong. You have to set this strategy. And the strategy is generated type identity. Sequence should also work, I guess, but let's say identity. And also, we need to get the getter setters for this, for ID. Right click, generate getter setter for ID. You know, we are doing so much of thing in one video, and you need to rewatch this. Okay, Praveen Chaudhary knows all the answers. Good job, Praveen. Okay. Things are looking good now. Let's see if this works. Run. And voila. Can you see that? You got all the data from the database without writing any SQL query. Whew. Yeah, we can also add ID if you want to get the ID, but this should work. Now, what are the things you can do? You can also add the product, because if you see, if you go back to your product service and let's try to find what are the objects, what are the methods we have. So DB dot, you can say we have find all. We also have save. We also got count, how many rows you have. You can also delete if you want. You can also say find one. We have so many options there. Yeah. Is it making sense? And just imagine, just by using this, your productivity will go on a next level. And that's why in the industry, Spring Framework is so famous. Cool. Oh, Praveen says, working as a full stack developer. That's awesome. Hey, Praveen, if you have enough time, you can also help me to create content. Let me know if you want to do moonlighting. Okay, thank you. So let me explain the entire flow once again. If you want to create this project, the first thing you do is you go to start.spring.io, mention all these properties here, which is Maven, Java, whatever Spring Boot version you want to use. Make sure that you don't use a snapshot because this creates some issues. And then mention the group ID, mention the project name, and add these two dependencies, the PostgreSQL driver and Spring Data JPA. Next, you need to copy the files which you have already created, service. Let's start with the XML file first. In the XML file, make sure that you have these two dependencies or three dependencies, or at least these two are very important for us. Oh, I got tired in 1 hour only. Next, in the product service, you have to make sure that this is component, because I want Spring to give the project. Yeah, sorry. I want Spring Framework to give me the object of product service. And I can use something called product DB, which is an interface, not a class, and it is extending with JPA repository. And with this, you can perform the operations, the CRUD operations with this particular interface. You can fetch data, you can save data, you can update data, you can delete data. Okay, and we are able to do that. But then you have to also set some properties, which is application.properties, which we have done here. Oh, I'm already tired. Okay, so go with the video once again. I will try to share this code today itself, or maybe tomorrow morning. Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay, that's good to know. Thank you so much, Akash. Okay, I've taken too much knowledge at this point and my head is hurting. Yeah, it will. Even I would have never tried to learn everything in one video. Yes, Praveen, you can send a mail at connect@telescope.com. Let me mention it here. So that's connect@. What's wrong with my keyboard? Where is @? Oh, it's here. telescope.com. Yeah. You can send a mail there. Hey, yeah, you can also use service here. For different layers, basically, we use different annotations. Doesn't matter, it works. So all the entity class or normal classes, you can have component. Entity class will have entity, and service class can have service. So got the idea what is Spring Data JPA? So all these operations where you don't have to add SQL query is happening with the help of Spring Data JPA. So before Spring, we used to do that with the help of Hibernate. Yeah. And if you want to learn about Hibernate, there's a video on Hibernate as well. And if you check out the channel, there are so many videos in the last 5 to 6 years. Sometimes even I forgot what videos I have. Yeah. Yeah, code will be available. So after some time, check out the description for this particular live session. You will find the code repo as a title, and then there will be a GitHub link. Yeah, hi Tarun. Okay. David, actually, so sorry, I'm so tired now. But instead of explaining it here, what you can do is you can watch my video on dependency injection. When you go to YouTube, just search for dependency injection. In fact, if you want, I can send you the link. And that video explains much better than what I can do now. Let me say dependency injection. I'm not sharing my screen, I know. Okay, my video comes first. That sounds good. So let me share the video. Okay. Is there a Hibernate playlist? Yes, there is. So let me search for Hibernate tutorial. Okay, Hibernate tutorials comes second. That's fine. So sharing the Hibernate video. So save it somewhere and have a sound sleep now tonight. Oh, that's good to know, Praveen. Thank you so much. Yeah, the current code which you have done is Spring Boot code. Now, what we have not done is Spring Web. So tomorrow, we'll convert the entire project into a web application. Sounds exciting, right? Okay, your eyes looks heavy. This is just an infection. It should go by. It should be good by tomorrow. Okay, now the time for assignment. Good. So what you do is, whatever code we have done, where is my mouse? Yeah. So whatever code we have done till now, you have to expand this code and add all the features. The features in terms of what we have done before, whatever assignment we have done before. So get the product by name, get the product by text, and find all the products which has out of warranty. Cool. So you want me to write the assignment somewhere so that you will remember it. So convert the yesterday's assignment to Spring Boot Data JPA. This is the assignment. Yeah, you have to use Spring. No, not Spring MVC, just Spring Boot, console-based application. Tomorrow we'll learn Spring MVC, and then there will be assignment on Spring MVC. Cool. So thank you so much everyone for joining, and I had a great time. I hope you had a great time. So before leaving the video, hit that like button and do share the videos with your friends. Do subscribe and see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. We'll try to convert this project to Spring MVC. Thank you so much. Yeah. Waiting for your mail, Praveen. Thank you so much. Yeah. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.